A very good morning, champs. Let's get quickly started with full stack web application development using JSP part 2 of the series. And let me quickly have the recap of what we have achieved so far. What we were able to do is the following. Number one, we created the config page and we set the configuration, right? And we distributed the header and the footer. We created separate files for footer section and header section. It's especially basically it's meant for giving all the web pages a common footer and the header. Only the body section may change, right? It's reusability of header and footer, and yeah, you may have the body section or maybe the content section of the website which may change. For example, if you are having a menu bar or the navigation bar, you don't want a different navigation bar on page number 2. What you can do, you can have the same navigation bar everywhere you require that navigation bar to be. So that's why we created it, and it's as you know that the project has basically it's dependent on dependency injections, and it's what we are doing from the scratch. And what we are learning from the scratch is that the distribution is there, code reusability is there, object-oriented methodology is there, code sharing is there, code portability, durability, sustainability, every single thing is there. So we shall be moving ahead nicely, and it's very important that once I move to class number 1, once I move to class number 2, that class number 1 is already cleared, understood without even a bit being misunderstood. So let's get started for today's class. So now, one of the major things that we noticed here was two different things. We're setting the login URL. We say that it may change. We're setting the default URL, all right, and we did not set c.set. We did not set the website URL. Why do I have to set this website URL? So let me get quickly started. I have to set this website URL because we are developing the website using the local host, our own computer. Once the website is developed and completely tested and everything is debugged, then we finally want to upload the website and host the website. So at that time, hosting address is going to be http www.yourwebsite.com, not this. So what I have to do before publishing the website online or hosting the website online, I'll take this string and only replace is this string with as the new string, right? I'll replace that as that of the new string which we shall get after hosting the website, or maybe the new domain name of the website will be replaced right here. So that's what I say. And now why do I require it? I require it for all the hyperlinks that we may have in the near future, and all the dynamic links, static links, and whatever links you can say. Right, so that's why it is required. And the second thing that we have to take a note of, database configuration will also differ. The same database that you're using here, setting up or configuring using the local host may not be available online, right? So we'll have to consider that as well, and that is going to be addressed in today's session. So what I will do right here, I'll go to essentials, and I can easily see I have some DB essentials right here, and I have config also. So I'll go to configuration, and I'll mark it as DBConfig. So DB configuration, or is it BD configuration or DB configuration? Alright, so it's going to be database configuration, as I have already mentioned database configuration. So I'll start making it private string DB host. So DB host in our case here is local host. So now what I'll do right here, I will say private string. Second thing is going to be DB user. Username of the database, and private string. Now the third thing that is required here is DB host, DB user, yes, DB pass. Can see short, in short we call it DB pass. We'll use slang here, maybe, who knows. Okay, so this is for the host name, this is for the username, and this is for the password. Is there anything else that we require for database connections? Yeah, DB name. How can we forget? We forgot to write this. I'll say private string DB name. Now then we have developed, declared 4 variables: DB host, DB username, DB password, and DB name. And I don't think we require anything else for database to get connected to the database. DB name is already there. DB password is also there, and let us configure them as soon as possible. Right click, insert code, getters and setters is what is required here. Alright, so let's create getters and setters and quickly save this. So now once getters and setters are ready, everything is ready and you're set to go, Now go to config file and write it down here. So we call this as again DBconfig. So this is where you change your DB configuration. I can say c.set DB host. So in our case, DB host is right, the local host, and I can say c.set the default URL. What is that? The database name, which we haven't made yet, and I will say c.set DB password, right, and we can say c.set DB user. DB user in our case is root, and password, we don't have any password, right? We haven't set up the password yet. DB name, we will go and make the database. So DB name is set, user and password, each and everything is set up, right? So what we require to do is now go to MySQLi or MySQL server using phpMyAdmin. In case you have not installed, you can install phpMyAdmin separately, or you can install MySQL database separately, or you can install the complete XAMPP. XAMPP has the collection because XAMPP is an archive which contains every single thing. So in my case, I'm using phpMyAdmin to do database programming with MySQL here. So I'll go to SQL and say create database full stack project, FS project. So I call this as FS project. So I'll hit go, and now we have the database FS project right here. I'll select the database. Now you can see FS project is clearly available right here. Alright, so FS project is selected, and now wait a second. Alright, now so we have to set up the DB host now, right? Since we have set the DB name and created the DB name FS project, we have set up the DB root name, which is the username of the DB root, and we have also set up the password of the database. So now the DB host is basically this JDBC. It takes this URL JDBC, and we know that we are going to use MySQL. MySQL is the database, and technology we'll be using is MySQLi. So I will say MySQL /local host 3306. So this is going to be our DB host, and this is going to be the DB name, right? And this is the configuration file. What I want from you guys is that once we are going to host, before hosting the website, right, what we will do is just change everything in this configuration file. Rather than changing every single page of the website, it is always better for us to change one thing. So that is why this config file is very important for keeping all the configurations that are meant to be changed, or that may change in the near future, or maybe that may change while updating and hosting the website. So it's very important to do at least, I'm showing the least things that we have to do, right? Okay, since now this is also done, now you can see the request is there, the response is set, and everything is set. Now DB pass, DB root, and now let us get connected to the database. We'll directly go and make a data access object. We already made a package DAO. I'll go click new, and I'll say make a new Java class, and I'm going to call this Java class as DBContext, right? So D small and C capital. You can keep anything, but yeah, make sure that you're following coding conventions. Right, so conventional coding has to be similar in the entire site, so that it's defined in the documentation of the website also. Right, you can learn that later on, but yeah, DBContext is a database name. Package is DAO, data access object. DAO stands for data access object. Right, now then we have this. Alright, so now we have to pass all those arguments right here. Now imagine and always remember, what we got to do is to pass arguments so that all these arguments are passed, and you're not using the database connection just for the sake of using the database connection, right? So because you have this database host, database name, and each and every single thing in front of you, right? Now how will you make the things that you have made here, or maybe all the parameters available inside the DBContext file? For example, if I make public static. So why are we keeping this static? Static objects, rather than creating a new memory instance, uses the old memory instance. So it saves a lot of memory, because DBContext file is something, or the database connection is something that we have to call again and again, because we may require database connection in every page, maybe twice or thrice in a single page. So we don't want to waste the memory, right? We want to utilize the given and available memory. Imagine that we have to host the website online. Once I host the website online, so that's the online hosting server is not going to give us the luxury of utilizing the memory or the RAM of the hosting server up to the extent possible under use. So no, there has to be a limit. They set that limit, and then we have to, construct and develop our website, considering that limitation of RAM also, right? And that's why we are going to create. Reusability is there, but yeah, also we have to make sure that the site is also memory efficient, right? So memory efficiency has to be considered here also. For example, now if I make public static connection, so the type of the file is going to be connection. Why? And it's java.sql connection. Do not go for java.mysql.connection. Always go for java.sql connection. And before integrating the database, what I will do, I'll go to libraries. I repeat, I'll go to libraries using NetBeans, and I will add a project right here. Right? No, sorry, my mistake. I'll add a library here, and the library name is going to be MySQL JDBC driver. Now, what this driver does is basically it gives us that stream wherein we can get connected with the MySQL database. And now imagine that we are writing everything here using Java code. It's pure Java code, Java plain objects or core Java code. Now we require an intermediator who could convert the Java written code to the transact SQL statements, right? So what Java driver does, converts, first gets connection, gives us connection, gives us all the streams that are required to take our queries from our software to the Java data, to the MySQL database. Not only that, but what also it also provides us the luxury of writing Java code, and it is going to automatically take the Java code and convert it to the appropriate TSQL, that's it, transact SQL statement. So Java code, conversion to transact SQL statement, communication to the database, connection to the database, right? And vice versa, right? So now that's why we are using this java.sql.connection, and it's always required. The prerequisite is that the JDBC driver is also installed. So now the problem here is I have made this public static connection, right? So it's going to be connection type, and the name is CONNEC. So the function name is connect. The type of the function is connection, right? And now because the type of the function is connection, the return type of the function is also going to be connection, right? We have to return a live connection to this connection. But now I need, I may require the database name here. I may require the database connection parameters, including the username and password here. Where do I get that from? Right? So that is what I'm asking you. Where would you get that from? You have to supply it here. Does that mean you are going to pass the entire connection object so that you get connected here? Yeah, if you want, you can still do that. Pass the entire connection object, right? And then you can do also that, right? So what I can do right here, okay, I'll go to config.jsp, right? And I'll just call my DBContext. So I'll say DBContext. Now you can see DBContext is here, and I'll call the connect function. And what I will do, I know that the configuration file, which is this config c is equal to new config, this has everything. It has the website URL, the default URL, the login URL, the request, the session, and it also has configuration. So I will pass the same object to this file, the database.connection function. So now let us accept it. So we have to accept config. So I have to accept config C here, right? So now then we have every single thing that is required to get connected to the database dynamically, right? And the proper configuration is used, right? So let us get connected and start typing our code now, database code that we require. So I'll start with class dot for name is equivalent to, we know that we use a package known as com dot, this is what I always do because I don't remember the syntax, mysql.jdbc.driver. So now I'll copy this. com.mysql.jdbc.driver comes from the package that you have just installed, or the library that you have just installed. It's not going to be available without installing the library, right? For example, if I get rid of the library, right? So for example, if I say remove library, right? So now I have removed the library, so the library is not available here, right? Will I be able to achieve the same, or will I be able to call the same driver? So that is what my question for the day is. Now let's go ahead and see the libraries folder. No, there's no library. Now if I type com dot, you can say there's no MySQL. Sun is there, Oracle is there, and Faster XML is there. Now in order, if your computer or your file doesn't show MySQL here, so you go to libraries and add a library, that is the MySQL JDBC driver library. So as soon as I add the library, you can see MySQL is available. .jdbc.driver is available, and I'll copy it. Giving it a test is very important. Then you guys do, then what you guys do, you often get errors, and then you get errors and errors and errors, and finally you leave and you give up on practicing because you cannot solve too many errors when you get them. So error protection and error solving alongside project development is very important, right? So okay, now then we have done it. Let me close it down and let me simply create a connection now. Let me create a connection here. Connection, and the type of connection is going to, let's call this con, and initially this con is going to be null because assignment is very important, and the connection comes from java.sql.connection. Now I will say con, this con requires to get a live connection. I'll say con is equivalent to call the driver manager. I will say driver manager dot get connection, and it requires a string. Now what is the connection string? If you guys remember the connection string, it was something like this, right? Now I'll give you the connection string, jdbc.mysql, and then you have this already configured, right? So we have already configured this jdbc mysql localhost 3306 is already configured, right? So let us first get connected to the database before I change it. Then we are going to change it. Let me first test the database. So I am going to use the same URL right here, and I am going to use the database name as well. All right, and then I am going to also use database name is there that we have to use, and that is going to be, our database name is FS project. So I will use FS project right here, and I will close it down. And what else is required? Database name is already given. All right, and the second parameter is the password, which is root. All right, and we have the password, which is nothing yet. So we haven't set up the password yet. Okay, let me keep it like this. Fine. Right, so we are getting this because we are not handling the exception, so I'll have to keep the code within try block, and we have to try and catch the exception, which is SQL exception E. Right, and now we are handling the exception. We're still getting an error right here. Okay, let me see the error. Driver manager, non-static variables cannot, non-static variables cannot be accessed inside the static function. So I'll have to declare it static, and it has to be private static connection. Right, so now we have an error, unreported exception. We have two exceptions now, so we can catch both the exceptions right here. So this is how we catch multiple exceptions, class not found exception also. Right, so we have been able to catch exception, and we have been able to write the connection string, right? Get connected to the driver, ask for the connection, and now since you are connected, let me create a private static. So now I'll not create a private, public static message. So this is the variable that is going to take message, right, whether the database is connected or not. So I call this string message is going to be connected. All right. So in case if exception comes, I will say this dot message. We cannot use this because it's static. I'll say message is equivalent to e dot exception dot get message, right? So it's very simple. Now what is happening right here? Let me return the connection first. Return God. Okay. Now this function is ready. Now what are we doing here? All right, we have made a static function. Why static function? Because static functions use the old instance. Doesn't matter how many times you call, rather than creating a new instance or a new object, the old object or the old instance is used. Since we are required to use it in every page maybe, so that's why we're declaring it static. Point number one. Point number two, we are going to get connected with this connection string with this database FS project that we have just made, and we haven't done anything dynamic yet because we'll first test. Once the test is successful, then we are going to do one by one. What you guys do, you guys rush, right? And while rushing for rather than understanding the project and rather than understanding what is happening, you try and finish it up. Finishing is not going to be sufficient for you, and finishing is not the solution, right? Finishing things doesn't mean you actually know them. If I ask you to go back to class number 1 and class number 2 and write down what I have taught you, write it down without even taking help from the screen or any book. So if you know that, yeah, and you are writing it without taking any help, that's where I say that you have learned sufficient and you are at the right track. And in case if you do not know what I have written and how I have created it, so that's a problem. That's why I'm showing you step by step. As a student, if I have to do, I'll do everything at the same time, and I'll do the things that you cannot remember. So now for you, it's recommended that you first connect to the database, then go one by one. For example, replace the host, see whether it's working fine, and then replace the database name, see it's working fine, then replace the username and password of database and see it's working fine, and manually try to change it and see that you're getting an exception. You're trying to generate an exception, right? You still have to see that. Okay, not only try has to be tested. Professional development means catch has to be tested as well, right? Unless you throw the exception manually, you'll never know whether catch is working or not. Sorry. All right, so now we are done here. Okay, and we're calling it from config, right? So DBConnect dot. Okay, so let me call this now. I will say out dot print, right, in the config file. I'll say out dot print c dot message. So now this is c dot c dot c dot c dot db, no, it's static, sorry, DBContext dot message. So I'm going to print DBContext dot message. Now let us try. Okay, it's still getting compiled, so let it be fine. All right, so let's see now. We have an error somewhere, or the exception, who knows what are we getting. So let me run it again. Maybe I close, yeah, build failed. So we have an error right here, and we need to check that error. Okay, let me close it down and check it out. That's why I say that doing things step by step often, is often helpful, right? And where exactly is the error then? So let me delete this. It was working fine. Okay, it still has that error. I don't get it. Okay, and let me try it. For example, where is the error? I don't know. Yeah, there is some serious problem. Did we do anything wrong? Head is there and every single thing is here. So why are we getting this error? And which file are we going to? Index.jsp. Include header. Maybe there's something wrong with the header. It includes config. Now let's get rid of config and see. Yeah, still we are getting an error. Okay, I don't know why are we getting this error. So let me build failed. So let me see the error. Okay, we have this error in the client part. Fine, so we have error, libraries are imported. So let me open 404.jsp and try and run it. We still get an error, most probably web.xml, right? So let me open web.xml, and every single thing is fine in here as well. Let me delete the welcome file list. So nothing is wrong. So let me restart NetBeans. So I never know. Okay. Give me a moment, I'll restart NetBeans. Alright guys, I've restarted the module which is NetBeans, and now let's test redeploying it, right, and go back to browser, and you can see that it's connected, right? And as I said, that it's not only your duty to check whether it's connected or not, right? What we have to see, except from testing the if statement, we have to test the else statement. Similarly, not testing only try block, right? We have to test the catch block as well. Now, for example, if I give a wrong database name, so I'll say FS projects, which is not there. So let me see what I get. Yeah, unknown database name, FS projects. Now, if I say let me go back, class not found exception is there, and now if I say, let me, okay, I give password which is not there, pass is not the password, and access denied for the user root. Now everything is working fine. The first dynamic thing that we are going to now apply is, let me get the connected message. Yeah, connected. Okay, now the message is connected. The first dynamic thing that I'm going to apply, I'm going to get rid of this line here, right, completely, and what I'm going to say plus 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 plus, and I will say get c dot get db host. Now we are getting db host dynamically from the configuration file, the first step. And first things first, please test. Absolutely working fine. So the test is successful. And the second thing that we have to get is the database name. I'll say plus c dot get db name. Now dynamically, let's see whether it's able to get. Okay, absolutely right, we are still getting connected. Now the db password username c dot get db user, very good, working absolutely fine. And now let me get the db password, c dot get db pass. So now every single thing in here is working absolutely fine, and as I expected, and you guys also expected, now everything is fine. So now let's say in case tomorrow if I have to publish the website online, what I do, I go to the configuration file and change all the parameters right here. I don't have to go in the connection file and reopen connection file and change the parameters. No, that's not the case. For example, if I want to change the database name, I'll go and change the database name here. Let me change the database name here now, and let us see whether we are getting the same error. You can see unknown database FS projects. Now let me change the database name back to FS projects, save the project, and see what we get. We should get connected. Now we're still getting the same error, FS projects. Alright, we're still getting the same. I don't know whether this is being cached or what. Why are we getting projects? We did not write projects. We wrote, what did we write? We write only project. If I'm not wrong, correct me. FS projects, let me have nothing here. It is basically cached, what I believe that this gets cached. Projects, yeah, FS projects is not there. Now if I don't supply anything, still FS projects. I don't know where it's getting this FS projects from. Okay, okay, connected. So maybe it's basically cached, and it takes a bit of time. It takes a while. Okay, now you can see because it's static, right? So now it's connected. Now we have this database connection. We made the database connection successfully right here, and we don't have to do anything else because now we are successfully connected to the database. So let me get rid of this here. It was only to test, so I was using this for testing purpose only. right? So now since everything is fine, so the first thing has been achieved, that we are successfully connected to the database, and we have even made database connection reusable, right? And let me check the timings first. So it's 30, we still have 10 odd minutes, so we can continue with remaining things, right? Okay, what else is required? So let me go back to DB Essentials. We have already made. Okay, now let's go and make a model. Let's go and start designing the model. All right, so I'll go ahead with new Java class. I call this users, right? So this is where maximum things are going to come from, right? And we have users, for example, private string fname. So these are the details we are going to take. Private string lname, private string, right, username, private string password, private string C, I mean confirm password. Yeah, it's confirm password, C password. Okay, C password is confirm password. Private string message, just to give user friendly message to user, whether I mean all the validation and verification message. So private string password is there, confirm password, username, last name, first name, message. And what else is required? Okay, we have private date, which is DOB, date of birth, and date is going to be java.sql.date. So let me get java.sql.date. And private int, let's call this as gender. All right, private string email, private string contact, private string mobile, right? And what else? Yeah, private string address. All right, so these are the things that we may require. So I'll say insert code, getters and setters. So this is my model, and the model is now ready to be used in the project, right? And I'll just close down the model. Model is ready and every single thing is ready. Now see that database, even if you want to call the database connection, is still going to be called everywhere. Right? And let's start making our business classes as well. So I'll go to controller and I will say make a new class which is accounts controller, and I'll go ahead and make another class that is website controller. So we have accounts controller, and the second class that we will be using is website controller, and I'll be using a new class right here, admin controller, right? So let's not use admin controller, we'll design it when required, right? So we'll just go for the new class whenever it is required to go. If it's not, then we are happy with this. So far we have we have checked everything, and everything is in place. 404 is in place, the reusability of the code is in place, header and every single thing is in place. Now we have to start designing so that we'll start applying it. Now we have the first file, which is index file right here, right? So I'll just get rid of this div and every single thing which is present here. Now my index file is using plain header and plain footer, and it does not require any single thing to be used, to be very precise and to be very frank with you. So what will I do right here? I will go to my header because I am starting body tag here, right? And I will start a section, right? And I'll call this section ID. I'll give it an ID that is or wrapper, right? And I'll close the section, and the section is not closed in the header, right? I'll try and close the section in the footer section. Why? I'll give you the reason why. There is footer, go to includes and go to footer. Before the close out body, you close down the section. Now you can see that we have the header file which is included first, right? And then we have the file like body file, for example, index is calling. So we are starting, we can say that we are starting section here, right? And we are closing down this section due right here, right? Which is after, right? So now the section is going to be available throughout, right? Mean from the header to the footer section completely, right? Or let me save this and show you the demonstration. Right click, view page source, and let's see the header. So now you can see section is exactly in the body section. You can see body starts here, ends here, HTML starts here, ends here. Now you can see the section is completely in place, right? And let me quickly go and style this section in the CSS file, right? And the name of the section is hash wrapper. You can see it's automatically coming. So I'll say, hey wrapper, what you got to do is your width that you have to use is 97% of the entire available area, and always keep minimum height. As I've told you many a times that we have to use minimum height. Minimum height will give us the luxury of using the maximum height as per the content available. If the content size increases, the height increases automatically. That's why we are using minimum height is equal to 600 pixels. Alright, and I'll say border 1 pixels solid, and I'll show you how to, or we can go it here also. I'll click on hash. If using NetBeans, if you want a color chooser, so you'll have to use color as the first property right here. Okay, I'll go to HSV and I'll say I will use slight border here. Alright, so this is my border. Now you can see that border is here. So let me decrease it from 97 to 96%. Fine, so now it's here. I want this to come in the middle. So for that I will say margin auto, right? So I'll repeat. So I will say margin as auto. What this margin auto does, you can see, applies automatically margin from the right hand side. It applies margin from the left hand side, from the top side, and from the bottom side. So it automatically applies margin. And plus what I will do here, I will go to the body section and I will say, hey body, padding top, I'm giving you padding top of 10 pixels and padding bottom of 10 pixels as well. Now you can see, right, from top side you have get padding, and from bottom side you also get padding of 10 pixels, right? And I'll also say, hey body, please use a background color which is going to be hash CCC, which is basically gray. And now you can see the gray color is used and slight border is used from here. Or I can use more slighter. Let's go to color chooser. Just almost white and gray, almost in between white and gray. Yeah, now you can see it's much better. Now my wrapper is going to have the background color as white. White is hash FFF, or you can simply write white. Alright, so you can simply write white. Now this is the structure of your website, right, which is going to be available throughout. Right, so I'll go to my profile and delete whatever is in profile, includes head and foot, and I will go in index, and it's already included and excluded. Okay, let's go to profile dot JSP. Yeah, it uses the same, and index.jsp uses the same. So now what I want you to do is you have to be synchronous with me. You have to work in sync with me. Whatever I've shown you, I want you to complete it today only. You cannot be 2 or 3 lectures behind, right? So you have to complete it by today, right? So this is the initial framework, and this is sufficient for us to get started with the full stack application. development, right? So we shall be applying AJAX here. We'll not be applying the normal request and response mechanism. We'll be applying the JavaScript request and response mechanism here. And for that, in case if I show you how to use that request and response as per the current framework that I have developed, in case you don't have that framework back home ready, so you're going to face some problems. So I want you to be ready and this framework also to be ready before we carry on with the concurrent classes from tomorrow. All right, until then, please complete it and let me know if we can help you down in the comment section, or you can message me as usual. And I wish you all the best for this lecture and for all the upcoming lectures. All right, may Allah bless we all. Bye bye, take care.